kind of break this down. So San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond on Monday became the first board member to call for Nathan Fletcher to step down immediately. So already we're getting pressure from his fellow Board of Supervisors. They want him to resign immediately over the accusations of sexual misconduct for the 4th District Supervisor, and it's getting in the way of county business. And it's interesting because Fletcher said he was going to resign on May 15th. Kind of makes you wonder why. What's the deal? I mean, if you're going to resign, especially if you're going to design in disgrace, I mean, why would you postpone it? Why wouldn't you just drop the hammer and go? But he wants to stick around till May 15th, and that's what's causing a lot of this disruption on the board. So, Fletcher announced his plan to resign just days after he was taking medical leave for mental health issues and ending his state Senate campaign, and one day after filing a lawsuit that accused him of kissing and groping a Metropolitan Transit System employee while he led its board of directors. Now, Desmond went on to say, supervisors do not have the power to remove someone, but he should not be getting paid by taxpayers. So this is interesting because they can't oust him because he's been democratically elected by the 4th District. But they're obviously, at least Desmond is telling him he should resign immediately. And now he's trying to say, maybe we don't need to pay him, because he's making $275,000 a year. Plus he gets besides a salary, he gets a car allowance and retirement benefits and insurance. So that gap in time between his announcement that he was going to resign, which happened in late March, to actually resigning, which happens on May 15th, they say that's going to cost the county about $37,000. And Jim Desmond is saying, hey, man, why do we need to pay him for this? He should just be stepping down. So this is very interesting. And I know some of the other Board of Supervisors are, they're kind of being careful on what they can say here, because on one hand, I'm sure they would like to see him go away, because Fletcher is just a distraction and a spectacle, and it's getting in the way of the things they want to do. But at the same time, they can't force him off. This guy was democratically elected. And the other interesting angle to this is that for the longest time, the San Diego Board of Supervisors was Republican dominated, but now has a Democratic majority, which, by the way, is sort of reflective of all of San Diego County. San Diego County overall is a Democratic majority. But it's only a 3-2. So if they remove Fletcher, who's a Democrat, then you've got a 2-2 split on the board. And that would be really interesting to see how they would resolve that. So I'm very curious to see what they end up doing here. Now, public support on this, and by the way, I'm kind of quoting from an article in the San Diego Union Tribune. Public reaction swiftly turned from an outpouring of support for his decision to seek mental health treatment to disgust as the allegations and his delay in acknowledging those allegations. Desmond went on to say, it's clear to me that this was a ruse to cover up infidelity and other alleged crimes. Mr. Fletcher's actions are causing unneeded distractions. He needs to resign immediately. So what a mess they have on their hands. And what are your thoughts on this? Should Nathan Fletcher resign immediately? And then what's the decision-making process on how they bring an appointment back onto the board? Now, this is an interesting topic. I live in Poway, and putting together appointments to replace council members that have resigned or taken other jobs, or, this happens, or a council person in the middle of their term, for whatever reason, leaves their seat. How should they be replaced? Should the existing council, or in this case, the existing Board of Supervisors, nominate a replacement? Well, they should, at minimum, on a temporary basis, because the voters in Nathan Fletcher's district deserve representation. But then, is this thwarting the will of the people? Because the will of the people wanted Fletcher, but if he's out, then shouldn't the will of the people vote again for a replacement. A lot of times people say, oh, the election is going to cost too much money, but isn't that the whole point of local government, is to have local representation? So I would hope that maybe they appoint someone on an interim basis and then have an election in relatively short order to find a permanent replacement. Because if they appoint a person and they don't have an election right away, that appointment will be the incumbent the next time there is an election, and they'll have a significant advantage. And I don't think that's really fair in the process either. So, again, I was supportive of Fletcher for seeking help for his issues. Clearly, we're all disappointed, in some cases, angry about what we learned about him and what went down. Yeah, it's got to be tough on his family. I mean, it's got to be tough on a lot of people. But the right thing to do here is for him to step down immediately, appoint someone on a short-term basis, have an election, and then move forward so they can be constructive. So let's see what happens there. Okay, before we get to some of these other topics, and by the way, if you have comments and thoughts, drop them into the live chat on Facebook or YouTube. We'll get you involved in the discussion. If you want to learn more about this podcast and my project, the John Riley Project, you can go to my website. It's johnrileyproject.com. There, I've got all kinds of episodes that are listed there. YouTube video clips are there. You can see some blog articles I've written, ways to connect on social media. You can sign up on our email list at johnrileyproject.com. Or if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, you probably see my camera rotating around. I've got another chair here for a guest. If you'd like to be involved in this and kind of break down the news highlights of the day, love to have you here. So just drop me a note at johnrileyproject.com. Ed Franklin on the live stream. A crooked politician. Wow, that's strange. Yeah. Well, there's crooked politicians at all levels of government, right? And there's obviously a lot going down right now with Trump and New York and all that. And I'm not going there today in this podcast. I try to stay local with San Diego. Sometimes I'll drift and talk about national stuff. But San Diego's had a lot of controversy with elected politicians like Randy Duke Cunningham and like, what was the guy's name that was the congressman from East County whose father served for a long time, and then Junior took over, and then he got into a disgrace. I can't remember his name. He got into trouble. Now Nathan Fletcher. There's a long history of other people in San Diego in City Hall. Even Roger Hedgecock. Gosh, it's just a long track record of that.